Have you ever trusted someone so completely that one cruel joke shattered everything? Imagine returning from a grueling shift, exhausted and craving peace, only to find your world exploding in flashing lights and accusations. What if your own spouse turned your home into a nightmare for laughs, risking your freedom and sanity? You won't believe how this harmless prank spiraled into betrayal, legal battles, and a fight for justice. Stick around, the twists will leave you questioning if forgiveness is possible when trust is demolished. Hear how I uncovered the truth and reclaimed my life. It's jaw-dropping. I'm Sarah, a 34-year-old marketing director at a tech firm in Seattle, Washington. I've been married to my husband, Mike, 36, for 8 years. We met in college at the University of Washington, bonded over rainy hikes in the Olympic National Park, and built what I thought was a solid life together. No kids yet, we were waiting until our careers stabilized. Our home in the Ballard neighborhood was cozy, with a view of Puget Sound that always calmed me after long days. But last Thursday, everything changed in ways I never imagined. It started innocently enough. I had a major client presentation that ran late. Around 8 p.m., I texted Mike that I'd be home by 10:30. He replied with his usual drive safe, love you. I wrapped up at the office downtown, grabbed a coffee from a Starbucks drive-thru, and headed north on I-5. Traffic was light for once, so I pulled into our driveway around 10:15, earlier than expected. The house lights were on, which was normal. Mike often stayed up watching Seahawks reruns or tinkering in his garage workshop. I grabbed my laptop bag from the passenger seat and walked up the porch steps. As I reached for the door handle, I heard muffled voices inside. At first, I thought it was the TV, but then I caught snippets. She never suspect. I quietly inserted my key, turned it, and pushed the door open a crack. That's when I saw it. Our living room looked trashed. Furniture shifted, lamps knocked over, papers scattered like a whirlwind had hit. And there, in the middle, was Mike, talking animatedly to a woman I didn't recognize. She was holding what looked like my jewelry box, and he was gesturing wildly. Panic surged through me. Burglars, home invasion. Seattle had seen a spike in break-ins lately, with reports on the local news about bold thieves targeting neighborhoods like ours. My mind raced. Mike must be in danger. I backed away silently, heart pounding, and dialed 911 from the porch shadows. There's a break-in at my house, I whispered to the dispatcher. My husband's inside with strangers. Please hurry. Address is 4523 NW 65th Street. She assured me units were en route and told me to stay hidden. Minutes felt like hours. I crouched behind our rhododendron bushes, phone clutched tight, watching through the window. Mike and the woman were laughing now, which confused me even more. Was he being coerced? Then, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. 2 patrol cars from the Seattle PD screeched up, lights flashing blue and red across the quiet street. Officers emerged, hands on holsters, approaching the house with caution. Police. Open up. The woman followed. The lead officer, a stern woman with a badge reading Officer Ramirez, demanded, hands where we can see them. We got a call about a burglary in progress. Mike's face shifted from confusion to amusement. He glanced around, spotted me emerging from the bushes, and burst out laughing. Oh man, Sarah, you called the cops. This is perfect, perfect. I stood there, frozen, as the pieces clicked. The burglar was his old college buddy, Lisa, whom I'd met once at a reunion. The trashed room, staged props, fake mess from party supplies he'd bought. It was all a prank. Mike had planned it to surprise me, thinking I'd find it hilarious when I walked in on a fake robbery he set up for laughs. He'd even recorded it on his phone hidden in the corner. The officers weren't amused. They separated us, taking statements on the lawn under the streetlights. Neighbors peeked from windows. Mrs. Jenkins across the street even came out in her robe. Officer Ramirez turned to me. Ma'am, you reported this. Is everything okay? I nodded, humiliated, explaining what I'd seen. Then to Mike, Sir, did you stage this knowing it could lead to a police response? He grinned sheepishly. Yeah, it was just a joke to spice things up. She's always so jumpy about crime news. Their expressions hardened. Faking a scenario that prompts an emergency call wastes resources, Ramirez said flatly. We diverted from a real domestic call for this. Mike's laughter faded as they explained the seriousness potential charges for misuse of 911, creating a public nuisance. I felt a mix of rage and betrayal boiling up. This wasn't funny, it was reckless. What if the officers had burst in assuming a real threat? Someone could have gotten hurt. That night, after the police left with warnings and a report filed, I confronted Mike in our kitchen. "How could you do this? I thought you were in danger." He shrugged, still chuckling. "Come on, babe. It was epic. Imagine the story we'll tell at parties." Parties? I slept on the couch, mind reeling. By morning, I'd decided, this wasn't just a prank. It was a sign of deeper issues. Mike had always pushed boundaries for attention, silly stuff like hiding my keys or jump scares. But this crossed into dangerous territory. I called a lawyer friend that Friday, explaining everything. She advised pressing charges to highlight the severity, especially since my call was genuine based on what he staged. By noon, I'd filed a report for inducing a false emergency response, a misdemeanor in Washington state. Mike was stunned when officers returned to cite him. "Sarah, seriously, it was a joke." The fallout hit fast. Mike begged for forgiveness, but I handed him separation papers I'd had drawn up overnight. "I can't trust you anymore." He moved to his brother's place in Tacoma that weekend. Friends divided, some called me overreacting, others supported me, saying pranks like that erode marriages. The next 3 weeks were a blur of texts, tears, and threats from people I thought were my friends. Mike blew up my phone. 300 plus messages, 87 missed calls, voicemails that started with "I'm so sorry, babe." I blocked him, so he switched to burner apps in his mom's landline. His mother left me a 6-minute voicemail calling me vindictive and unforgiving. I saved every single one, evidence, my lawyer said. The citation turned into actual charges. False reporting because he'd intentionally created the appearance of a crime and misuse of emergency services. Seattle PD wasn't playing. They had my 911 call me, whispering, terrified, describing 2 suspects inside with my husband, and they had the Ring camera footage Mike forgot was recording the whole street. You could clearly see him and Lisa carrying fake stolen items out of the garage an hour earlier, laughing their asses off while setting the scene. Open and shut. Mike's family went full war mode. His sister posted a TikTok private, but someone screen recorded and sent it to me, sobbing that I was destroying her brother over a harmless prank and that some wives would VA laughed. The comments were brutal, half calling her delusional, half tagging SPD with "charged the wife for being dramatic." She deleted it in 4 hours, but the internet never forgets. Meanwhile, I couldn't sleep in our house. Every creak sounded like footsteps. I kept replaying the moment I thought he might be hurt or worse. My therapist called it acute betrayal trauma mixed with hypervigilance. I started staying at my best friend Jenna's condo in Capitol Hill. One night I woke up screaming because I dreamed that officers had drawn their weapons. Jenna found me on the balcony at 3 a.m., shaking so hard I dropped my coffee mug over the railing. Mike showed up at my office downtown the following Monday. Security had to escort him out because he refused to leave the lobby. He was holding a giant bouquet of roses and a poster that said, "I am an idiot. Forgive me," in glitter glue. My coworkers watched through the glass walls like it was reality TV. I walked straight past him and told security if he came back, I'd file for a protection order. He left crying. Someone filmed it, of course. By lunch, it was on the Seattle subreddit with the title "Local Man's Apology, Fail Goes Viral." 12,000 upvotes. Then came the court date for the criminal charges. I didn't want him jailed, I'm not a monster, but I did want consequences that hurt. The prosecutor played the 911 call on the courtroom speakers. Hearing my own panicked voice describing a woman going through my jewelry while my husband stands there made Mike go white. The judge, an older woman who clearly had no time for nonsense, asked him point blank, "Did you consider that police officers might arrive prepared to use lethal force?" Mike mumbled something about not thinking it would go that far. The judge sentenced him to a $2,000 fine, 120 hours community service at the Union Gospel Mission, 6 months probation, and a psych evaluation. She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Your need for attention almost cost lives. Fix it." His mom gasped like the judge had sentenced him to death row. That same afternoon, I filed for divorce. No counseling, no mediation, no second chances. I packed his clothes into contractor bags and left them on the porch with a note. Do not come inside. Everything else will be handled by lawyers. He picked them up at 2 a.m. The ring notification woke me. He just stood there in the rain for 20 minutes staring at the house before driving away. The divorce was finalized 91 days after I filed. King County Superior Court, Room 842, on a rainy Tuesday that felt exactly like every other Seattle morning. Mike showed up in the same gray suit he wore to our wedding rehearsal dinner. I wore black. The judge took one look at the prenup we'd never needed until now, the police reports, the ring footage, and the therapist's letter diagnosing me with PTSD triggered by the incident, and she signed the decree in under 8 minutes. He tried one last grand gesture the day escrow closed. Showed up at the title company with a moving truck and a brand new puppy, a golden doodle wearing a little sign that said, "Can we start over?" The escrow officer threatened to call the sheriff. I walked past him, took my cashier's check, and left the puppy with him. I already have trust issues. I don't need a dog that will grow up thinking chaos equals love. The community service selfies started 2 weeks later. Mike in an orange vest picking up trash along Aurora Avenue. Caption: Learning humility, one bag at a time. Hashtag growth. Then another from the Mission Kitchen ladling soup. Grateful for second chances. The comments were savage. Someone zoomed in on his ankle monitor. Probation required it for the first 60 days, and wrote, "Second chances don't usually come with GPS tracking, King." He turned comments off after that. His friends abandoned him in waves. The group chat he'd bragged in about the greatest prank ever leaked. Turns out Lisa, the burglar, was his side situationship from 2 years ago. She thought the prank was payback for me, always acting better than everyone. Suddenly, the jewelry box in her hands made a lot more sense. Half his buddies texted me apologies. The other half just ghosted. I moved into a loft in Fremont with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Ship Canal. First night alone. I sat on the balcony with a bottle of Prosecco and watched the Fremont bridge lights flicker on the water. No sirens. No fake robberies. Just quiet. I slept 12 hours straight, the first time in months. Therapy is hard. I flinch when people joke about cops and robbers now. I installed a new security system with cameras that send alerts to my phone and Jenna's. I changed the locks twice, just because. But I'm healing. I started running again. Gasworks Park Loop at sunrise. I laugh at memes without checking over my shoulder. I even went on a date last week with a guy from Tacoma who thinks pranks peaked with whoopee cushions in middle school. We're taking it slow. Mike's probation officer called me once, just to confirm he'd stayed away. She said, "Offercord lady, I've seen a lot of dumb." That man won the stupid prize. I laughed so hard I cried. First real laugh in half a year. Last I heard, he's renting a studio in Shoreline. The puppy chewed up his Xbox, and he's dating a girl who posts Bible verses and AR-15 photos in the same Instagram story. I give it 6 weeks before she pulls a prank with her dad's guns and he finally understands how it feels. Yesterday, the final decree came in the mail. I took it to Gasworks, tore it into pieces, and let the wind carry it over the water. A jogger gave me a thumbs up like he knew exactly what I was doing. Maybe he did. Seattle's small when you've been betrayed this loudly. I'm 34, single, debt-free, and sleeping through the night. I have a new plant wall, a promotion to VP of Marketing, and a calendar that's mine alone to fill. Some nights I still hear phantom sirens, but they fade faster every time. The prank cost him a wife, a house, his reputation, and whatever was left of his conscience. It cost me 6 months of nightmares and a naive belief that love means never having to fear the person who shares your bed. But it gave me something priceless, proof that I will never again confuse being nice with being a doormat. I know my worth now. And nobody, not a husband, not a friend, not the entire Seattle subreddit gets to take that from me again. So yeah, I'm good. Actually, I'm better than good. I'm free.